Guys, we have got an excellent episode. We're going to be talking to you about Japanese Imperial Unit 731 from the World War II days. It is horrifying what we're about to tell you. These people maybe were worse than the Nazis. We're going to tell you about a general who was the Japanese equivalent of Adolf Hitler, and it's probably something you've never heard about, and it gets gross.
And we're also going to tell you about why the Americans all looked the other way. They turned the other cheek, and they didn't let anyone know because they thought it was valuable information.
It's what it is. And of course, patreon.com/historyhyenas has this unedited episode a day or two early for you, and everything that we've cackled out you can hear at patreon.com/historyhyenas, plus a bunch of other bonus episodes, and it is fun there.
Yes, you can watch it ad-free and early, and our bonus episodes, like Chris said, and you can catch me in Providence, Rhode Island, June 11th and 12th, Rosemont, Illinois, August 8th and 9th, and Tampa, August 13th through the 16th.
And you can catch me at the Brea Improv, July 18th and 9th in Brea, California, and then you can catch me in Montreal, July 26th, Winnipeg, July 25th, and July 24th, Minneapolis, Minnesota, ChrisDComedy.com for Tiki Wikis, or HistoryHyenas.com for all History Hyenas related info. Enjoy this episode. Buckle up. It gets nasty.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of History Hyenas. Mi nombre is Yannis Pappas, a.k.a. Freddy Feta Cheese, otherwise known as Freddy. I'm sitting here with Chris Distefano, a.k.a. Chrissy Helmet Head, a.k.a. the Schnitzel Sniffer.
It's what it is. And I appreciate that intro, and I appreciate you calling me the Schnitzel Sniffer. Thank you, Mr. Feta. So today we got a big one for you. Today we are going to tell you all about the Japanese Hitler, and we're going to talk to you about a little thing called Unit 731 that you've probably never heard of. And if I ever hear after this episode that it's only white people doing bad things again, I'm going to punch you right in your Japanese face.
Yeah, here is the situation, folks. Unit 731 is an underknown, if that's a word,
yes, and
lesser known,
and we're going to tell you why it's lesser known, because the United States wanted it that way.
Yeah, they wanted it that way because they did some bad things. They did some boo-boos, they did some uh-uhs, they did some things that when you find out what they did, you're going to go, we should have dropped. Oh, no.
Yeah. Here's the thing, is you're going to say, as this episode goes on, you're going to say, oh, this is just Asian people creating biological warfare and dropping on their citizens. What is this, another Tuesday? No, it's even worse, because what they did, what the Japanese people did, what the Japanese people of the World War II era did to the Chinese people, to their own citizens, to even some United States and French citizens is gross.
And they did it for 10 years.
Yeah, a lot longer than the Nazis.
A lot longer than the Nazis. We like to call them the Nazis of the East.
The Nazis of the East, and then we call them another word in the streets of the East. That we can't say.
We just got a little riled up. We just got a little patriotic. We just got a little justice-oriented. We were walking in the streets, and you know when it's just Chrissy and Yannis walking, we talk colloquially.
It's just what it is, and we were walking in a neighborhood also known as Bay Ridge, where when we said that word of the East, what happened is we just got free slices of pizza for saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I might or might not have referred to them as scream masks.
It's what it is. Now, here's the thing. I want you to listen to this episode, and I want you to listen good, sister, because the truth of the matter is this, my friends, is that what the Japanese people, what history will show you is that kind of the winners will tell you about the atrocities that they want you to know about, but you got to dig a little deeper to find that there were atrocities happening all over the world, but very specifically in Japan, okay, in the 1930s. It's really, really bad. And we want to talk to you about a little guy named General Shiro Ishii. The name General Shiro Ishii, he is the Hitler of the East. He is the Adolf Hitler. He's Hitler if Hitler shit on the floor.
Yeah, needless to say, this episode, what you're going to find is there was a time period of 10 years in Japanese-occupied Manchuria and the surrounding areas where the Japanese, the Imperial Japanese, were what you call a little bit off the beam.
Off the Japanese. Here's the thing that you need to hear. Let's set the stage, shall we? So Japan is just, in the 1930s, they're just a bit of an angry country because in World War I, they won. They were part of the good guys. They were part of the Allies, but the Allies didn't really split the profits with the Japanese. They kind of just looked at the Japanese as like, why don't you just go over there and get away from us? Because the world was racist back then. It's not anymore. The world was racist back then, where kind of the white countries, European countries, and the United States just divided amongst each other, and they left Japan out. So Japan said, we have this manifest destiny. We want this Japanese kingdom to be one. So they said, we're going to start killing everybody around us, the Chinese, the Vietnamese, the Indonesians. We're going to start killing everyone around us, and we're going to start just taking over what we believe is rightfully ours. And it's just the Japanese, what they are very, 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 very big with back then and even still today is a little thing called nationalism and national pride, but they take it a little bit too far.
They go, it's a little more than you order.
Yeah.
When you say, we want you guys to love your country, they said, give us an extra cheeseburger with that combo meal. It's a little more than you need. It's a little more than anyone ever wanted. They took a combination of sort of the racial hierarchy of the time. Seemed like everyone was doing that then. I think we're the superior people.
Right.
So the Japanese viewed themselves as the superior scream masks.
Yeah.
They said, we're the best made. We're not made in China.
Yeah.
We're a high quality scream mask, and we're better than all the other scream masks. And they combined that with their samurai culture, and the pride started coming on. And they said, we're going to go and start taking over this whole sphere.
Yeah.
And we're not going to do it nicely.
No, they're not going to do it nicely. And here's the unfortunate part is, see, here's the thing is, what the only real difference between what we're about to tell you about Unit 731 of the Japanese Imperial Army in the 1930s and 1940s, the only real difference between them and the German Nazis was just the amount of people, was to scale. Germany had access to more people and definitely did it at higher rates and killed more people. But make absolutely no mistake, the Japanese had the exact same intention. The Japanese were looking at the Chinese the same way the Germans were looking at the Jews. The Japanese just did it at a smaller scale because they ran out of time. So if you want to look at it this way, is the Japanese were more of a mom and pop shop of mass extermination, and the Nazis were more like a Walmart.
That's what it is.
It's just what it is.
Now set the stage, right? Japan is an island.
Yeah.
It's isolated. It was led by a strong sense of cultural superiority, especially towards, like we said, non-Japanese Asians.
Yeah.
And after the 19th century, they began to rapidly industrialize and viewed themselves as the rightful leader of Asia. And
Asia. You put an R on that.
And culturally, that,
because you're acting like an Asian.
Yeah. They were racist towards the Chinese and the Koreans and everybody else. They just viewed themselves as top shelf Asians.
Yes.
And everybody else is jungle Asians.
It's just what
That's
it was.
what they looked at it.
It's just what it was. And their General Shiro Ishii, was actually a military physician, and the unfortunate thing is he was very skilled in microbiology. He understood microbiology. He was actual microbiologist. That's what he went to school for. He went to school in the United States for it. He went to school in Japan for it. And then when he eventually becomes the leader of the Japanese army, it's not a good thing, because this is like if this is like Hitler, General Shiro Ishii was like Hitler if he had the knowledge of microbiology and use chopsticks to eat his food.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Kids were taught at the time to worship the emperor like she was the queen bee, like he was the queen bee.
Yeah.
Right? The government, Imperial Japan, the government controlled the education.
Right.
Critical thought was suppressed. We're talking about a full-on military state and a full-on dictatorship.
100%.
That grew out of World War I, and now Japan wants to prove it's equal to the Western powers that have been exploiting that area for a long time, and we set the stage for some of the biggest atrocities you are about to hear right now.
Yeah! So, first of all, if we could just go up a little.
And of course, the emperor was considered a divine being, and he can fuck your wife. That always comes along with it.
It's just what it is.
I got a direct line to God, and your wife needs to be fucked.
It's just what it is. Bang her out, and if she's my 10, just like Gandhi.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
And scientists and soldiers, of course, saw themselves as divine tools on a divine mission. That's always part of the deal.
So, Unit 731 in Japan, which was actually titled officially the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Kwantung Army.
It was Smita Water.
Yeah, so
Smita Water. Officially, it's a Smita Water Department.
So
we're doing nothing wrong here, just to purify water.
Yeah, they want to purify the water. So this was established around 1935 by the Imperial Japanese Army, or as my grandfather called it. So, and this is in Pingfang.
Or as your grandfather called it. Yeah. So this was in a place called Manchuria, which was actually in northeast China, but this is really a puppet state for Japan. So Japan had taken over this part of China and just started moving their citizens in. But the thing was, they moved their Japanese citizens in, and they treated Chinese like second-class citizens. So the Japan had superiority, and the Japanese were second class. And the Chinese were second class.
Chinese were second class.
It's hard. I don't blame you.
Which is what it is.
Yeah.
I still, to this day, don't know how they knew what the hell was going on, but they figured out a way.
Yeah, Schultz doesn't either.
Yeah, it's what it is. I really don't know.
It's tough to tell the difference.
It's tough to tell the difference.
Yeah.
The only way you could tell the difference between Japanese and Chinese was after 1945 because
some of them were cooked in a conventional oven, and some.
It's just what it is.
It's just how it goes.
And it's, obviously it's horrible. We're joking around.
Joking
this is
around.
a comedy podcast,
Yeah.
but we are actually seriously very angry at the 1930s Japanese. That I will not shy away from. If you want to look back at history and hate on everyone, then you also have to, unfortunately, I know the Mamdanis out there that think only white people did bad things. Unfortunately, you got to recognize that the Japanese did some pretty bad things too.
I love when your group text bleeds into the episode.
Yeah.
I love that.
Now we're just calling people that we think we've just created a term and we call people Mamdanis.
Look at these Mamdanis over here.
Mamdanis, yeah.
Now, listen, I just want to say this before we go any further.
Yeah.
The United States unequivocally was the good guy in World War I and World War II.
Yes.
I know that Qatar and all these other foreign interests pour millions of dollars into our education system for us to consider the other side of the story. But when you hear what we're about to tell you, you're going to understand that we are the good guy. Even when it comes to war tribunals, The Hague, the Geneva Conventions and stuff like that, we were not doing what these other sides, our adversaries, were doing.
Right.
And obviously the deal that was cut that we're going to tell you about, that these Japanese generals and employees of Unit 731 cut with the Americans. They cut with the Americans because they knew that if they had to face the justice of the Soviets, Soviets just hang you.
Yeah.
The United States say, give me your data and we'll look the other way.
So that's what we're going to get to. So remember, we are in Manchuria. We are in a city called Pingfang, which my grandfather would call Ping Pong.
Yeah.
Pingfang, Manchuria, Commander General Shiro Ishii, military physician, biological warfare. So what he's basically saying to his Japanese contemporaries is we're going to have to eventually fight another big war with Russia, because there was a Russo-Japanese war where actually the Japanese won.
Yeah.
So they are, make no mistake, they are scared. The Japanese are scared of Russia. Even some people say the reason why we dropped the nuclear bomb on Japan was not necessarily like Japan was going to surrender because the Russians were invading. They didn't care about the nuclear bomb from the United States. They were scared of the Russians invading their country, so that's why they were going to surrender, and that's why we dropped the nuclear bomb, to show the Russia we mean business. So, but anyway, basically what he's saying is to his Japanese contemporaries is we're going to have to fight another war with Russia, and we're not going to win it with soldiers and planes. How we're going to win it is biological warfare. So allow me, Emperor, I think it was, who was the emperor at the time? Because Emperor Hirohito. So the Emperor of Japan, he, and by the way, you could show me multiple pictures of emperors of Japan throughout the last 200 years, and I say, that's the same guy.
That's the same guy.
Those guys live forever?
And doesn't Japanese, the language, just sound like you're lifting boxes and you throw out your back?
Yeah, it kind of does. So what the Emperor of Japan says at that time is
he said something we just couldn't understand.
Can't understand it, so he said, basically, I will give you the money. I will fund your projects because if you think biological warfare is a way we can win, let's do it. And then things just start to get real nasty. And this unit called Unit 731 is the unit of their Japanese Imperial Army that is responsible for carrying out these biological weapons. So what they would do is they deliberately infected their people with the plague, like the actual
Not
black
their
plague.
people, but Chinese.
Yeah, and we are 2
territories.
minutes late, so just keep going.
Keep going.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So just tell us.
So it was all secret. It was completely a cover. Nobody knew what was going on. Yeah, it was called the Water Purification Department or something.
It was called the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Kuntang Army.
Yeah, but what they were doing was they were doing a bunch of boo-boo research. They were figuring out how to effectively kill people with biological warfare. They were running experiments on people.
Right.
And one of the things they would do is they would drop like infected fleas on towns.
Yes.
And they did it, and the town, they dropped the plague, bubonic plague.
The
they dropped
actual bubonic
typhoid, yeah.
So you have to understand, like, the bubonic plague, which was lost in history in the 1300s, they actually infected their own citizens, mostly the Chinese. But
Not their citizens, the Chinese.
But some Japanese, so there is an instance where some Japanese soldiers, because they would infect these places and kind of like spray it over like they're crop dusting, they would spray cholera and typhoid and bubonic plague all over these villages, but then the Japanese army would go in to inspect, and then they would get sick, and rather than trying to save them, Ishii was such a psychopath and his scientists that they would just also observe the Japanese, because they would say, let's see how it affects superior people too.
Yeah.
So they were so that's what you have to understand.
So they're basically saying you can't make General Tso's chicken without making a little sushi.
It's what it is.
It's a couple of sushi rolls.
It's what it is. They said, let's just throw a little seaweed around that.
So the way they did it was they would drop ceramic or porcelain bombs filled with fleas infected with Yersinia pestis, which is the bacteria that causes bubonic plague. And these they were dropped from airplanes onto towns and villages. The containers shattered on impact, releasing fleas into the environment where they could bite humans and animals, triggering plague outbreaks. And they did this on numerous towns, and they contaminated wells, food, and clothing with cholera, anthrax, dysentery, and typhoid. And the items were distributed in enemy-held areas or left behind during retreats. Knowing civilians would use them, they'd spray from aircraft, spraying bacterial agents in aerosol form, and they used hairspray. Yeah, and they would just spray it out over large areas, especially rivers and fields. Crops, water supplies, and surfaces were thus contaminated with these pathogens. And here's to note: this was banned after World War I in the Geneva Convention.
Yes.
So Japan was secretly doing this,
yes,
and they were completely doing it off the beam.
They were doing it off the beam, and because here's the thing. First of all, yes, you're right. They use a lot of things that were used in hairspray. That's why people say my hair looks good today. I said, I got it done in ping pong. So the reason why, though, again, they were so angry at this Geneva Convention, and it was the Treaty of Versailles, is that what ended World War I. The Japanese were so angry because they really believed that they helped win that war, and the world did not give them, the Allied powers did not give them what they thought they deserved. So this is why they went on a backlash, because basically what frustrated Japan is they had supposedly proposed a clause for racial equality to be included in the League of Nations, which was the thing that happened after World War I. But the U.S. and Britain and Australia just opposed it. They were like, nope, not going to give you that, and it was rejected.
What they did was, like, when you go to an amusement park.
Yeah.
And they have, you must be this tall to ride this ride.
Yeah.
Well, what they did is you must be this tall to join this league. And the Japanese just couldn't make it.
Yeah,
because they're squeaks.
They're squeaks.
They're usually squeaks.
Unfortunately, yeah, they're squeaks. And unfortunately...
And your penis has to be so big to join.
It's what, yeah, it's just what it is.
It was at the time, that's what they thought.
So Japan basically, they're just on a warpath to take over China and all these Asian nations, and they really don't care. You have to understand, this resentment was growing for so many years after World War I, for like 20 years after World War I into these 1930s and 40s, and they basically are blaming the Chinese. They're angry they basically are saying it was because of the Chinese they weren't given more spoils of war, which is kind of just crazy and ludicrous, but that's what they thought. So that's why they actually, a portion of the Japanese population at that time actually didn't consider Chinese people human. They just didn't, because they considered them lab experiments or just other living things, but not actually human, which is wild.
Yes, they did. And this was, at the time, this was influenced by Western racial theories.
Right.
So we had that going on in the West too, where we're the Aryan nation, we're superior.
Right.
So they just believed that they were the rightful leader of Asia, just like the Germans believed they were the rightful leader of all of Europe. And China at the time was kind of weak and backwards. And they viewed China just as an obstacle to their goal of controlling Asia. So after victories over China in 1895 and Russia in 1905, they grew confident, and Japanese leadership felt emboldened and saw China as like an easy target. But also, it's very resource rich. So that always comes with the territory too. They never go anywhere. You never hear anyone going, we're going to go to the Sahara Desert and take it over.
No.
It's always a fertile, nice looking girl that's got natural minerals and resources.
Yeah, it's like, what do you got for me, babe?
Yeah, so it was worth colonizing. And then they had the second Sino-Japanese War in 1937 to 1945. And this was the period that we're talking about, where things just were a little one-sided. If one people could dominate another more than this, show it to me. Because the Japanese dominated. Because what's known is the Rape of Nanking, but what's lesser known is what happened here.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that right after this break, because we're going to need to start the next section with the Beamcast, because things get real bad. Okay, so before we go any further, I do want to just say, my friends, I just do want to tell you a couple of things. I do want to say, with the July 4th holiday happening tomorrow,
right,
I do want you guys to think about the idea of freedom, and I do want you to remember one thing. I do want you to remember this, okay? While you're celebrating your freedom, I do want you to remember this, my friends, and I want you to take a deep breath, and I want you to proclaim your rarity, okay? I want you to proclaim your rarity. I want you to understand that the obstacle is the way, that there is obstacles to get over, use them as challenges, and I want to make sure that you understand this, that freedom is not just the presence of action, but is the absence of compulsion, my friends. So you go out there and you be free, but you say to yourself, the reason why I am free is not because I have been given freedom rights by the British 250 years ago. That is nice, and I do appreciate that. It is because I am not obsessed with compulsion. I am able to restrain myself, my friends. I'm able to say to myself, yes, I want to eat 3 extra hot dogs. Yes, I want to have sweets. Yes, I want to cheat on my wife. But I will not do those things, because freedom is truly the absence of compulsion. And that is the main thing, I think, my friends, to think about freedom. It is the presence of action. It is the absence of compulsion. And I want you to go right now, and I want you to light those firecrackers, and I want you to have a good time, and I want you to resound in freedom, and I want you to say, I control my compulsions. They do not control me.
That is an excellent Beamcast, my friends.
Yes.
That is brought to you by Chrissy Beams.
Yes.
Chrissy the Beam Walker.
Yes.
Chrissy the Tightrope Beam Walker.
Yeah.
Chrissy the Acrobat.
I'm the Beanstalker. I am Chrissy the Beanstalker. Yes. Cuz, are you going to climb up my beanstalk?
Yeah, I'm going to climb up your beanstalk, cuz.
I want my friends out there to climb up my beanstalk.
That is Chrissy the Beamstalker. And this is, I just want you, my friends, for my Beamcast, I want you to know, my friends, that I am Yanni the Yard Slinger. And I want to sling some yard at you, my friends. I want you to grab that ball of yarn, and I want you to pull from one side, because we all eat and live from the same ball of yarn. Yes. I want you to remember, we're all the same, no matter what your friends tell you, no matter what history tells you. We've done a lot of horrible things to each other. We've claimed superiority over each other. But at the end of the day, we're all fungus growing on a rock. And that's what we are. We're floating in nothing, and all you have to do is sit for 1 second and be in the present. I want you to impregnate yourself into the present. Go deep balls deep into the present, my
Remember,
friends.
the present is a gift, my friends.
It's a
That's
gift.
why it is called the present.
And I want you to go balls deep. I want you to thrust all the way into the present, my friends, where you can thus feel the divinity of the divine, my friends. Yes. Yeah, don't go into your head. Your head is a bad neighborhood, my friends. Your head it's just an immigrant neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I want you to get safely back into the smooth sailing and the calm skies of Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, my friends.
The friendly skies.
The friendly skies of Bay Ridge, Brooklyn in your mind, my friends. Just a naturally, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You just want to go into a neighborhood in your mind where the rent's a little higher, most people own.
Yes.
And it tends to be a little bit
more
Yes. Of something.
Yeah, my friends, what I urge you, and this is not a political podcast, and this is not this only applies to very, very specifically New York City. But my friends, if you would so kindly open up your apps and look at the Democratic voting polls, if you see that you are in a neighborhood or very near a neighborhood that voted strongly for Mamdani, I urge you, my friends, to move out. I urge you, my friends, to run for the hills because things might get a little bit off the beam for you, but you breathe through it. As we've talked about before, the things that we can do, we can control our efforts, not our outcomes. And this is what we do, my friends. Now, we are going to continue to talk about the atrocity of Unit 731 and our Japanese and the parts of Japanese history that they don't want you to know about, but we unfortunately do want you to know about. And what I'd like to do, though, is be a unified front, because we are all, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We are all fungus on the rock, as you said, which General Shiro Ushi would use in chemical warfare. But
that's what he would say.
That is so what I would like to do is to just go through this together to kind of show solidarity, because you don't want to just be negative. You want to have some positivity. What I've done is, while we're going to talk about Japanese history, we'll be doing it while eating edamame, one of the famous Japanese snacks and things that you can get. Also, very low in saturated fat, very high in protein. And this is from our friends who are not a sponsor. It's called The Only Bean, but my company is called The Only Bean. And these are sriracha flavored edamame beans. So I would like to eat a few. Would you like to have a few, my friend?
I'll have a few. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, a little sriracha. Jesse?
Thank you. That's a lot. You gave me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're absolutely delicious.
I want to get on the beam.
And this is one of the good things that the Japanese have given us is edamame, sushi. They've given us Ichiro. They've given us a lot of good baseball players, a lot of good pitchers, Matsui.
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. The Japanese of today is much like the Germany today. Very different. They're very much on the beam now. They're very much our allies. They love baseball. They're great. And they only recently, I think it was 2018, started to admit some of this stuff publicly. Right. The Germans apologized for it.
Right.
Almost immediately, and they changed their ways.
Other way.
But the Japanese only recently have said, yeah, this all happened.
Right. So we're happy for the Japanese for acknowledging that. So, but we do want to talk you through some of the atrocities, unfortunately. Yeah. So, Unit 731, as we said, they would test biological warfare. They would drop. What they would do, one of the things that they would do is actually, because they had prisoner camps, which we'll tell you about those atrocities, but they would poison the food supply.
Yeah.
So they would put cholera and typhoid and other diseases into the food and let little kids eat it. Let anyone who was going to eat it and just see what it did to them, in the hopes that they would spread it amongst each other and then spread it to the Chinese soldiers. Now, in the camps, they would do vivisections. What's a vivisection?
Oh, this is bad.
What's a vivisection? Yes. Well, a vivisection is, let me just take a sip.
Yeah.
A vivisection is a live dissection, so removing a limb or removing organs out of the body while the patient is fully awake without anesthesia, because they wanted to see what happened to the body when there was no anesthesia and when you were in extreme pain. So they wouldn't care if you lived or died. If you died, they would just bring the next body in and continue where they left off.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, this wasn't just done for adults. They would do this on children too, because they wanted to see what happened to children's bodies when you would live vivisection it. So
they would also rape women and intentionally infect them with syphilis and venereal diseases, and then give them a live dissection, which was called a vivisection, just to see what happened to the fetus.
To the fetus, and they would kill the baby, within moments after that, because they really didn't care about the baby.
Yeah, and you got to say, in some ways, the Japanese always like eating their food raw. They like killing things raw.
I do, yeah.
And it's so, they were just making human sushi.
So it's just what it is.
That's the way they...
So they would also, one of these studies that I read about, which was truly, I'm going to use the word abhorrent, It's just a big word that I just learned the other day. So they took a 10-year-old girl, a 10-year-old Chinese girl, and they put her arms in freezing cold water and let them get frostbitten. Yeah. And then what they did is it hardened to a piece of wood. So what they took one arm, it was fully frostbitten, so black, whatever, just made her stay in there for days. And then they tried to see what happened if they broke it. Would it break off like a shattered glass? And so that didn't work. So then they did the other arm. They said maybe we can reverse the frostbite, and they poured scalding hot water on her arms, and of course she died in the experiment from the pain. And it just makes me really, 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 really just angry at the Japanese for doing that, because I guess you feel it a little bit more when you think back, when you're like, oh, I have a 10-year-old daughter, so it's like, if you did that to my daughter, unfortunately, I'd have to behead you and your whole family. Yeah. And what it is, I just take a big shit on your flag. Yeah, that's what we do. This is a good time to tell you that if we hadn't dropped, which I didn't know before we did research for this, if we wouldn't have dropped the nuke on Japan, they were planning on doing this to San Francisco. That I didn't know. Planning on dropping the bubonic plague on San Francisco, and of course, that would have wiped a lot of people out. They were going to drop the bubonic plague on San Fran? They were going to do what they were doing in China, and they were going to do it in San Francisco. They had plans to execute that. Right. So that's what they were doing. Do you think maybe we don't even realize, though, that they did drop some chemical warfare? Do you think they dropped gay on San Fran? Well, if you look at the effect, very possible. Just because kidding. The cause has never really been isolated and identified. It's never been identified. They might have dropped gay on San Fran and parts of New York City. And they might have dropped it on our households, and we got nicked. Yeah, I mean, it may be. Why is it spreading so much? Right. It could be. It's crazy to know that they were so into this, right? This was banned. So this was totally like the Geneva Convention after World War I. This is how humans never learned, dude. Geneva Convention after World War I was brutal. Biological warfare was just, people had to wear masks and shit. They were just, and we were like, after World War I, we were like, dudes. We all got together and everyone was like, dudes. Right. We can't do that again, dude. Yeah. And the Japanese were like, I'll see you can't do that again, and I'll do that again. Well, so, because here's the thing. So what they would do is, they would test their effects. They had a name for their human subjects, and they would call them maruta. And what does maruta mean? It means logs. It just means that they looked at the people as just wood, as just timber. Wooden logs. So again, when you have your teenage child telling you that the United States is this awful corporate greed power, and that we were actually the villains in wars and we're the worst country ever. We didn't do that. No. Okay? Never, not once in history has that been uncovered. And can you imagine if we didn't stop this? Right? So people always go by the numbers. Oh, look at how we firebombed Dresden. Yes. We killed, I think more people died in Dresden than they did in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Right. But, you have to stop it somehow. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You have to stop it somehow. You can't ask. You can't say, hey, guys, can you please stop that? No. That doesn't work. No. You can't kill a few guys and say, we killed a few guys. Will you stop now? Yeah. Sometimes you got to use overwhelming force. Right. And you have, it's a war of philosophies. Right? Yeah. You got the West that has freedom, individual rights, rule of law, blah, blah, blah. And then you got military dictatorships in Nazi Germany and in fucking Japan. And I'm sick of this fucking Hitler thing and the Jew thing. He didn't only kill Jews. No. He didn't only kill Jews. He killed my people too. Okay? That's what you did. He killed my people too. He killed a lot of homosexuals. I mean, these are military dictatorships. They don't stop by you asking them not to do it anymore. No, so you're going to have to do things to stop them. Now, one of the other things they would do is they would tie prisoners of war. And by the way, the prisoners of war that they had at the time, Soviets, Koreans, Mongolians, and even a few United States and French citizens, Allied POWs. So that's why it was interesting that the United States, will tell you what they did later on, but why they decided not to just go full force even harder on the Japanese and make them admit these crimes. But what they would do is they would tie them to poles, like out in a field, and they would drop bombs filled with whatever type of chemical agent they had and just let them sit there and see what happened while they were tied to the poles. They would also do another thing, a little cute thing that they would do, is they would take flamethrowers, have a soldier tied to a pole, take a flamethrower, and then hit them with the flame their bearskin and with clothes because they want to see if there was a difference. If there was any difference between putting the flame on your actual skin or if the clothes made a difference. So it's just what it was.
That's just what they did. Now you got to remember the Japanese did not have penicillin and they did not use any type of numbing agents.
Yeah, because the things the Japanese didn't have, they didn't have numbing agents, they didn't have penicillin, and they didn't have souls or hearts.
They just did
not. So those are
not.
the things that they just didn't have.
They didn't have those. They were without that.
They were without those things.
They did not have that, and that's what they did.
The Japanese, dare I say, the Japanese being run by the Department of Environmental Smithtown Water Protection. I would say they might have been the most off the beam of anyone of World War II.
I mean, it's hard to say, but you definitely want to give either the gold and silver to
Who are you going to give it to?
I'm going to give. It's a toss-up.
It is, right?
I mean, when you go back, we're re-examining all of this history. I mean, Nazis, Imperial Japan. It's definitely a gold, silver medal situation.
Right.
I mean, it really is.
It's neck and neck.
It's neck and neck.
Again, no comparison. The Germans certainly have the numbers.
Yes.
They killed much more people, and they mass exterminated many more people. Can't deny that. The estimated death toll in Japan was 12,000. However, a lot of people do think that number is way, way more because when the Allied powers nuked Japan and when Japan formally surrendered in the middle of 1945, they destroyed all their records. So the Germans didn't do that. So we have German records and videos. They made videos. The Japanese made videos to show to the emperors, but they destroyed almost all of them.
Yes.
So there is no actual proof of the real number because what they would do is they would cremate. Like 100% of these victims got cremated. So there is no way to know. They said 12,000, and you have to take their word, but it's what it is. I don't know.
Usually Asians are good at math, but here's the deal.
Right.
They did this for 10 years with impunity on an occupied area. They had all the Chinese at their disposal to do this too.
Right.
We have no idea. And yeah, once it started to become evident to them that the Allied forces were going to win the war, they knew that this would not look good. And so they destroyed all the evidence because they knew it would be bad, bad, bad. And we would go shame, shame, shame. And so they got rid of everything. We found out about it. Douglas Smith Arthur, who was the American general in charge of that theater of war, found out about it.
Yep.
And he ran it up the flagpole and he said, what are we going to do? There's some crimes against humanity here. And then there was we were doing something similar. Now, here's the deal, right? People go, oh, America's bad too. Yeah, we did MK Ultra. We did
bad
that,
stuff, not excusing us.
But not as bad. We weren't fucking cutting people open when they were alive. We were giving them LSD to see if we could control their mind. So, okay, a couple of hippies in fucking the valley lost their minds.
Right.
Bad. It was bad, but it's not as bad as cutting people open or raping them with venereal diseases.
No.
Or dropping biological weapons on full towns to see what happens.
They would test certain types of guns and weapons at close range, fixed bayonets, certain types of bullets, tying prisoners of war to poles and testing them at different ranges, mostly 99% Chinese citizens. It didn't matter, woman, child, man, they killed them all. Again, they viewed these people as logs, not maruta.
They called them wood.
Yeah.
And what happened
Which is what I know some of you guys have listening to this episode because you're sick fuck.
Yeah, you are sick.
And you're off the beam and you have leaky roofs.
You got a leaky roof, my friend.
And I'm sorry for cursing. I promised I wouldn't, but that was the first F-bomb I've dropped in a while.
Oh, is that the new thing?
Yeah.
No cursing?
Yeah, well, if you've noticed, I've been not cursing. I've been not been dropping Fs.
Well, okay, if you don't consider slurs curses, I get it.
Yeah, that's just what, those are not considered slurs. Those are just considered Ridgewood hellos.
So, Douglas MacArthur was the Supreme Commander of the Allied powers in post-war Japan and proved a deal that granted immunity. So check this out. The Americans, now this is what we did, was a little off the beam, but was it? I don't know.
Right.
This is real politic here, right? So they granted immunity to Unit 731, so they knew about it. They granted immunity to the members in exchange for their research.
Right.
So we were like, we could have never done this research because we have morals and souls.
Right.
But since you did it, we're curious to find out what you came up with.
What are the numbers?
Yeah, what are the numbers?
And let's tell them about the research right after this break.
So General Charles E. Lux, I think his name is Lux.
Okay.
Yeah, General Charles E. Lux reviewed and supported the use of the data for U.S. purposes. So you're going, who's that guy? Well, that guy was he was a major general, and he was a senior officer in the U.S. Army's Chemical Corps, a leading figure in America's early biological warfare program.
Right.
So he was curious. He was going, "Hey, this is my life's work. What did you guys come up with?"
Yeah.
So we granted them immunity, and the main guy, Ichiri, right? He ended up living a life under like our protection, like he was in the fucking witness protection program, and he ended up converting to Catholicism.
Well, that's the thing. You think General Shiro Ushi, you think he's going to go, out like, Hitler, kill himself allegedly, and then go move to Argentina and live a life. No, General Shiro Ushi, like you said, is given pretty much diplomatic immunity because the U.S. is saying your stuff yielded results. We got the data from the live testing of the plague and the anthrax. We see now how disease spreads and weapon effectiveness and human tolerance to torture. So they said, listen, because, you gave us this data, U.S. military intelligence officers, as you said, MacArthur, said, all right, you go that way. We got the data. No harm, even though there was foul. You can just go live the rest of your days. He wound up dying of throat cancer in the 60s, because what it is, kid couldn't stop eating puss. But it's one of those things where, here's the thing, what Tampa Tony told me when I was little, and this is a real life-saving piece of advice. He said, you will start to enjoy life more when you understand life isn't fair, because the real world is not the movies. Things don't always work out. The bad guys sometimes just do live happily ever after, and it's something you just got to suck up and just stick in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, the U.S. feared the Soviets might acquire this same data.
So that's why.
They cut a secret deal.
This is why.
Yeah, and we took it. And
because people couldn't understand why would the United States aid in this cover, but as Yannis just said, that's the reason why.
And the Soviets were off the beam. I mean, I would give the bronze medal to Stalin because he starved most of his people, and his ideology, which we call a Mondani now. And people say, oh, he's not a communist, but I just watched a 2021 interview with him where he said, once we seize the modes of production. And that is communist.
That's what we call a communist slogan.
And that came out of his mouth, and I watched it, but I'm sure I'll be gaslit, and they'll say, oh, he doesn't mean that. Whatever it is, it is.
Whatever you say, I refer to the T-shirt that I saw last week of a man wearing it said, Mamdani, I'm Mangani.
So, Ishii lived the rest of his life, like I said, American protection, quietly and comfortably in Japan, avoiding media and any legal scrutiny. He worked for the U.S. military after that in a consulting capacity.
Right.
And like he said, he died in 1967, and he never faced trial.
Nope.
And him, along with, I think it was 731 other members of Unit 731 with high command, were all granted immunity.
All acquitted.
And we just kept the whole thing quiet.
Where they tried the rape of Nanking. People died for that. People went to jail for that. But Unit 731 completely 100% omitted.
Yeah, a lot of the in the rape of Nanking, they had the Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal, and a lot of them got that. Of course, the Nazis, Nuremberg, we know about that. But these guys got away scot-free because they had unique, interesting research. And as the general I mentioned, who was what was his name again? Whatever his
Which
name,
one?
The American general.
MacArthur?
No, the other one. Hawks or whatever. He goes, this was invaluable research, and we got it pretty cheap.
Yeah,
that's
just what it is.
So we got it pretty cheap. So that is the story of the horrors that happened, and it's just, I want to emphasize that point. Like, yeah, we did a lot of bad stuff. But ultimately, if you pull back helicopter view, right, you go, was this evil? Was this a society that was evil, right? And you kind of look back and you go, I think so. You look back at the Germans and you go, what's the end result of that if that continued?
Right
there. Okay, so we did a lot of damage. We dropped the nuke, and we always get blamed. People, but it's like, what if that would have continued?
The thing that scares me the most about this is like our brains have not really evolved at all. Not one thing in the past 70 years. So the brains that we currently have were the brains that these people had, and they decided to do that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of just nuts.
And I love when they say like, just let's take Iran, for example, right? It's a dictatorship. Right. Or you take Russia, for example. It's a dictatorship. Right. And you go, oh, They're not doing anything bad. It's because you don't know about it because they don't let anyone tell you about what they're doing.
Right.
Now, Israel does the same thing. They don't let reporters in Gaza or whatever. They do the similar thing.
Right.
But at least we know that they're doing that because they say no reporters in there.
Yeah.
These guys you can't even get into. What do you think the North Korean dictatorship is doing to its people? We don't know.
Right.
But it can't be good because dictatorships are always bad. Name me one good dictator. Who's ever been a good one?
I mean, well, I got different feelings than you.
Who do you like? Who's your favorite dictator? Maybe Queen Elizabeth, but she was a chick.
Well, no, I was going to say my favorite one is a guy who lived out his last.
This part's on the Patreon $25 level.
I would say my favorite.
I don't want you to speak honestly.
My favorite dictator is probably the man who lived his later years, his twilight years. No, I'm kidding.
I know.
There is no good dictator.
It's a bad system. So, my friends, I am not worried in America, no matter what happens. Everyone gets all up in arms about, Trump or Mondami. Right. I'm not worried as long as our system holds, right? Term limits, separation of powers, 3 branches of government, rule of law, common law, individual rights. As long as that holds, we'll be, if it doesn't work, hey, Mondami gets in, let's say, give him 4 years. He'll probably ruin it because I'm from New York, not like most of the people who voted for him who came here and can't find a job because they got a liberal arts degree and they don't know what to do and robots are coming and they don't know how to do math. That's not my problem, right? But let him in for 4 years. Maybe we do have too much of a separation between the lower and maybe that'll work, right? But this fucking pickleball game between retards, let it happen as long as we can come back to the middle sometime, as long as the system holds. Once you start seeing dictatorship things start to happen, that's when you got to get another passport. That's when Jesse's going back to Israel because he's got a right to return. Israel. He's the only one who's got a fucking right to return. I got to go through paperwork and say my mother was born in Greece, whatever, and you got nowhere to go.
I got nowhere to go because I got one thing and one thing only, and that's a New York passport. So tell us what we got right. Tell us what we got wrong about Unit 731. It's an atrocious part of history that is real, that it's getting some more light now. There's a couple of good documentaries on it. The one that I watched that was really awesome is the one that's exactly 1 hour long. I think it has the kid's name in it, Shihiro Ishii. General Shihiro Ishii, and then Unit 731 documentary. But let us know what you like. And of course, every episode, Patreon.com/History Hyenas. We read out the newest members of the matriarchy. And this is the fun part. So what we like to do is we'll wash away a little bit of this Japanese history, a little bit of this bad stuff. And now we'll just have some fun with the newest members of the matriarchy. And we hope that the whoever wins, congratulations to you.
You know what I just thought?
Yeah.
After this episode, we're going to get some horrible walked into ones about this.
It's what it is.
It's what it is.
So, welcome to the matriarchy. Sorry, AYG, but I'm GAY. Bad. So it said, sorry, are you garbage? But I'm okay.
I'm going to Drexel that.
That's a fun one.
That's a fun one.
Vic Boss, K-Dog, Chrissy Rosenblatt. Then we got, why are the Vatican school meals always cream-based?
Put them on the list.
Okay,
put them on the list.
Interesting.
Very inventive.
Then we got, I love fixing up trannies. I ain't no mechanic.
Put them on the list.
Back-to-back listies. Then we got St. Matthias's Throat Boxing Academy.
Put them on the list.
Okay, I guess that's the school I went to.
Wow. Have we ever had 3 back-to-back-to-backs? I don't think so.
Then we got Muhammad, my foreskin didn't stand a chance, Rashad.
We got to put him on the list. I mean, this is not, I can't, yeah.
Then we got Franks and Beaners are crossing the border. Yeah.
I'm going to Drexler because we've had Franks and Beaners before, but a very good
So
Drexler.
We've had 4 in a row. Yeah. Marquet, AGF2FFY, InfoWars, Connor Murtha. Then we got Filthy Sauce Bucket, built like Kirby Puckett, but make no mistake, we'll suck it for a trip to Nantucket.
Put him on the list.
There it is.
Dare I say Catapult.
I mean, these are 5 out of the
Holy shit.
I've never seen this happen.
This is incredible.
Then we got Valhalla for Allah. It's just what it is from 2020.
If he just said Valhalla for Allah, so I'm going to Drexler, but I mean, this is the strongest list we've ever had.
What is he, a Norwegian Muslim kid?
Yeah.
Valhalla for Allah.
Valhalla for Allah.
Then we got Jacob Burt, Deep State Daddy, Devastating Desert Dictators.
Wow, that's a good one.
Deep State Daddy.
Deep State Daddy, Devastating Desert Dictators.
All D's.
All D's, very funny, and it's going to be Drexler.
Yeah. Okay. Then we got my wife left me what it is.
They're slipping them past you,
Yeah,
guys.
unfortunately,
Walked in one.
Yep. Then we got slapping pregnant gypsies. That's not okay.
It's not okay. Another walked into one.
John Stanley, Alex Drake, pepperoni wheel piece. He said his piece is a pepperoni wheel.
It's a Drexler.
Kenneth Weaver. Then we got 21-piece gun salute for Christina Formella, the one that the teacher who's a
teacher.
piece.
That's a piece. We're going to Drexler it.
Yeah, she's just going to do 30 years in prison. It's what it is.
Yeah, it's just not right. We got to free her. You know how they did a free Mamdul? What was his name in Philadelphia? Yeah, we got to free her.
Christina Formella, free her up.
Free Christina Formella.
Then we got I saved Paulie Gassi at the Sound Factory. I guess the kid almost had a drug overdose at the Sound Factory, and he said he saved him.
Dare I say that I think this is the strongest list we've ever had in the
Did they
history.
make it, though? They haven't made That's a Drexler?
That's a Drexler, yeah.
Then we got Jawan like Howard, Dad Knows Ball. Okay.
Jawan Howard,
Jawan Howard, yeah.
player, okay.
Trey, then we got Where Was Zach Isis on October 7th?
That's a good question.
That's actually a legitimate
good
question.
Yeah.
Then we got I'm a Little Teapot, Short and Stout, Crack Me Open and Clean Me Out. I feel like we've had that.
That's still a good one. I'm going to Drexler it because it's good.
Then we got Jealous, Caesar and Anthony Hit That Sand Pussy. Walked into it. Okay.
That's a borderline though.
Okay.
I'm going to Drexler it. That's not so much a walked into one.
Then we got Matt. Then we got Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Removal Service. List.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Then we got Flick Your Beans, Not the Franks.
Okay.
Then we got Fumarian Brotherhood, aka SS, aka Squeak Sniffer.
That's very good.
Very good.
But it's a Drexler though.
No,
he walked around or walked into one, which I've never seen.
Nice.
Yeah.
No Muff, Too Tough. Eastern Hemi Nuclear Scientist, Shoe That Was Close. Okay. Chrissy. Okay. Chrissy. This I can't say this one. Okay. That's just
disparaging the family.
Yeah, disparaging the family. Can't say it.
No more anything you have to do with bicycle seats.
Yeah, we just can't do that.
We can't do it.
Michael. Then we got Yanni's Honeydew X-Ray Piece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Juneteenth Queen, Melanin Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Santana climbing up the ladder.
Wait a second. We just skipped over a goodie. Melanin Monroe? Juneteenth Queen, Melanin Monroe?
Melanin Monroe.
That's very good. It's just because the list is so strong, but otherwise.
It was a good one. Acknowledge it.
I'm going to chicken finger that one. That's a very good one.
Climbing up the ladder, here's something splatter.
Okay, kid had diarrhea while he was trying to do his firefighting.
Brian Pollard, Savannah, Chrissy Sweets, Until They Remove His Chrissy Feets.
Drexler.
I like that. Freaky Squeak on a Leash, Crushing Crease with a Decent Piece.
Okay,
there you go.
Very nice.
Lucid M, Ned Dickey, D11 Man, Brian Ailing, Carl Anderson, Vinegar Hard R. Okay.
You walked into one,
I
Chris.
can't do that.
Yeah.
Chrissy's uvula is the backboard. My cock is Tim Duncan.
We've had that.
But it's funny.
Actually had that exact same one, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. In a different way. Yeah.
Fat Polynesian potato monkey.
Chicken figure, yeah.
Scooter McGavin, Nick Wrong, Piece So Uncut.
Nick Wrong. I think they got you on Nick Wrong or no? No.
Nick Wrong.
No.
I don't know. Piece So Uncut, It Looks Like David Duke. Louis Gay Gomez, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Oh, welcome to the show, Neil deGrasse.
Yeah. We had him as a guest on the show.
Yeah. Otani Bukaki's in Mommy's Tummy. Matthew Gordon. Plus N. Can't say that. Walked into one. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
That is not good.
Yep. UCF alum pumping AIDS glue in your bum. Hashtag surrender like Bono. Okay. Super Granny Fanny licking Frisbee alidocious. Okay.
It says superfracalicious. Yeah.
Super Granny.
Good one.
That one girl. Frisbee's killing Sandra Bees for the Honeyland.
Just he's commentating. He's commentating on the situation. Yeah.
Ricardo Papadoulis. Sahar. Blue Chew made my glue blue. Eugene.
Gotcha.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Damn. Gotcha. Amen. Endless glue for my Eastern Hemi piece. I knew I was in a Leroy town when everything but the sunscreen was locked up.
Put him on the list. Put him on the list. Okay. Get the catapult and put him on the list.
Fine. Okay.
Put him on the list.
All right.
It's a home run. Put him on the list. Jesus Christ is the toughest one.
Bobby the Throat Goat Kennedy's Angry Voice Box. Leah W.H., Cameron A. The Brooklyn Nets turned me muzzy. Now my bush is looking fuzzy.
Can I just say, do we stop here because we have so
Want
many?
me to just finish this page?
Finish this page because it's just not fair at this point.
Pop's getting 2, and while Chrissy plays hummus cannon. Hyenas eat free on Tuesdays, but you need to check your glue guns at the door. Don't want an oopsie daisy. Corey Bleacher, Jack's Cuddly, Chrissy D's D, cracked open a muzzy, and the fumes gave me 9/11 flashbacks.
Lot of 14.
What do we do?
It's a Drexler walked into one / yeah.
Okay. Opening for Tim Dillon, but there's no audience.
Okay.
Oh, God.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's another one. Oh, you got to list it because, Tim Dillon's about to bang this kid out.
Yes, that's what it is.
Oh, God.
Trevor G. Then we got Sis Buster Dill, call me CBD. Chrissy D's glue gun smells like Yanni's poo bun.
Okay.
Sniffing AOC's bush brush for fumes. Bush brush.
I'm crying.
Then we got I was an altar boy and boy was I altered.
Oh, it's too good.
It's put
what do
him
I
on?
do? But that's the thing. That's why we got to stop because it's like too. I'm going to Drexler it because.
Okay. But it's just but you got to play that. You know,
gotta,
if you're in
the
the
game.
league, this is what Drexler is. Drexler couldn't pick. Drexler couldn't say I don't want to play now.
That's right.
We're reading. We got to read 2 pages.
Any other
Those
day, guy. I'll say any other day.
The thing is, if you got a great name and you don't make it, you could change your name, right? Or they can't change their name.
We just don't see it.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah.
All right. Richie, Mitchell Bain. Then we got sticking batteries up my ass because I'm fully charged.
Put him on the list.
Okay. See, there you go.
Yeah.
You don't.
And put the other guy on the list too, honorary. I mean, he's not going to make
fine.
it. Put him on the list too. Put the I'm altered guy.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got him. Mike Marino, Preston Glad, Tom Montgomery, Holly Doak, Peace Greased for a Frisbee Feast, Ed, Pollock, Pole Polisher.
It's a good way to call yourself a Polish gay guy.
Yeah, that's what it is. Brendan Foster, Thomas Greenman, Tyler the Shaman, Germanata Sauce Monkey has a long, thick, and chunky. Okay.
Germanata, Stephanie Germanata.
Yep. Ivan Pena, Rosalie Rivera, Salty, Chrissy Buss, Chronoside, Stephen H., Matt Hag, David Daly, Peter Klembisk, Luke Madison, Yanni's Fuhrer Fume Chamber, 50% Cocoa, 100% Clan Curious, Darren Brand, Oscar Pacheco, and then last but not least, currently blowing a turd out the back door and breathing in the puke fumes like a Frisbee head in 1943.
It's a walked into one. It's a walked in one.
It's not good, right?
Yeah. It's inventive, though.
Yeah, so we got to stop there, right?
We got to stop there. I mean, this is going to be the toughest one. This is the best. I will declare this the best list we've ever had.
All right, here we go.
In either Reich.
This might take us a few minutes to get through.
Yes.
So here we go. So let me just read them all out, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Why are the Vatican school meals always cream-based?
Okay, I can Drexler that right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other day.
I love fixing up trannies. I ain't no mechanic.
Very good. I can Drexler that right away.
St. Matthias's Throat Boxing Academy.
We're going to keep that for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Muhammad, my foreskin didn't stand a chance. Rashad.
We're going to Drexler that.
Okay.
Any other day for any of these guys.
Okay.
You're all winners.
Filthy sauce bucket built like Kirby Puckett. Make no mistake, we'll suck it for a trip to Nantucket.
Gonna have to Drexler it.
Okay.
It's the rhyme stream. It's just, this is the definition of the game. I know what we have coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
all winners.
Glenn Greenwald's bunion removal service.
We're gonna have to keep that for now. We're gonna have to keep that.
Okay. So keeping that one. All right. And then we got, I knew I was in a Leroy town when everything but the sunscreen was locked up.
We're gonna have to keep that.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Opening for Tim Dillon, but there's no audience.
We're gonna chicken finger that one.
Okay.
But you're a winner.
I was an altar boy, and boy was I altered.
We're gonna chicken finger that.
Okay.
You're a winner.
Then we got sticking batteries up my ass because I'm fully charged.
That is ordinarily a chicken finger winner. I'm gonna have to chicken finger it.
All right, so the ones
God
remaining.
damn it.
So here's what
I
we have.
hate doing this.
So here's what we have remaining. We have 3, and this is one of the toughest lists we've ever had to get through, but we do have 3. We have the St. Matthias Throat Boxing Academy. We have Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Removal Service, and we have I Knew I Was in a Leroy Town when everything but the sunscreen was locked up.
Okay, we do this right every time, except for when we miss one and one goes over our heads. Shout out Leroy's Ceiling Cricket. But we're going to get rid of the first one.
St. Matthias' Throat Boxing Academy.
And the other day.
That's paying homage to the grammar school that I went to.
That's exactly right.
In Ridgewood, Queens.
So, big fan who's been listening a long time and came up with a funny one. And also got to give him credit because there's been a lot of angles on that.
Yep.
And this guy,
he found something new. It's like when a comedian finds that Asians are bad drivers angle.
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we got 2 Hall of Fame contenders here.
Yes.
We have 2. This is a heavyweight bout between 2 Hall of Fame contenders.
Between Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Removal Service and I Knew I Was a Leroy when everything but the sunscreen was locked up.
Okay, for me, it's both. So we're going to have to vote because this is too hard.
So
They're equally good to me.
So Jesse,
They're equally
unfortunately,
funny.
it falls on you. You have to cast the first vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. For me, I used to use the Apple Store as an indicator of when I was in a good neighborhood. So the sunscreen is definitely the winner.
Okay.
Where are you going?
That is a new idea I've never heard before.
Yeah, that's a very funny one. But Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Service,
so for
to
me,
refer to a young black prostitute, is very funny.
For me, it's tough because the way that I saw Jesse laugh, I knew it was a Leroy and everything, but the sunscreen was locked up. I haven't really seen him laugh like that, so that was interesting. But then the way that I saw not only Yannis laugh, but actually have to take a moment where maybe his life has changed after hearing Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Removal Service. I'm going to go with Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Removal Service only because what it's showing is he's listening, or she is listening to this podcast very thoroughly. It was something we only spoke about very briefly. Glenn Greenwald, as we found out when we brought up Glenn Greenwald in front of 2,000 people at the live Dr. Phil show in Atlantic City, most people don't know who we're talking about because the joke that we made about him absolutely bombed.
Yes.
So for me, I am going to pick Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Removal Service. So this is one of those things where unfortunately is now lying on you. You have one vote for each, and you just have to make the decision because heavy lies the crown.
Yes. Can you read them both again so I can just feel what happens in my gut?
Okay. I knew I was in a Leroy Town when everything but the sunscreen was locked up. And then Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Removal Service.
We're going to get a lot of heat for this, one way or the other.
Okay.
The fans are going to be, they have their idea right now. They're listening right now. And I'm going to guess that a lot of them are leaning towards sunscreen locked up because they're borderline racist.
And they also feel like they want some kind of retribution for us missing Leroy Ceiling Cricket.
They may want that. But it's not just, it's just funny. It's just funny. The Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Removal Service is
it's layered
funny
because he's licking feet.
He's licking feet.
It can come off the floor.
Yes.
And it's all it's to do with his feet.
Yes.
So it's layered. It's not on the nose.
As usual, I'm going to give a shout out to the borderline walked into ones and say they're often some of the most creative. But like you said, we try to bring people together.
Yes.
So we're going to laugh because we're comedians and it is one of the funniest ones we've ever had. That's why you're a finalist. But I'm going to go with the safer one, and I'm probably going to take a lot of heat in this because you put the crown on me here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the heat.
It's a small crown because you have a small head.
It's a very tiny, tiny crown.
Yeah.
Okay? It's very small.
Yeah.
But it's a donut shape.
Yes.
It's the size of a donut.
It's what it
But
is.
I'm going with Glenn Greenwald.
Wow.
Bunion Removal Service.
Yep. Okay.
Because I just want everyone to know that we don't think all black neighborhoods are dangerous.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Just
Fair enough.
mostly.
So Glenn Greenwald's Bunion Removal Service, congratulations. You are this week's PPW, Pseudo Penis of the Week. You will see your name up in lights at historyhyenasisback.com. Also, we have all our live stand-up dates there. We are going to be doing a live show. Unfortunately, you missed the one that we just did at the Comedy Cellar in New York City, but we will be doing a live History Hyenas show in Stamford, Connecticut in August. I believe those tickets are already up on the site. So go to historyhyenasisback.com or or YannisPappasComedy.com or ChristyComedy.com. Get those tickets to Stamford, Connecticut. We will be doing a big live history Hyena show. And of course, all our stand-up dates are up there. I'll be at the Brea Improv in July, and I will be in, we've just added Montreal. And I have a bunch of dates in July and August, Minneapolis, and a bunch of others. So go check it out.
Yeah, and check me out in Providence, July 11th and 12th, I believe. Yeah, get your tickets, Tampa, and whatever else is on my website. I can never remember. I'm never prepared for this segment, but they're on my Instagram. They're on my website. And never forget, patreon.com/historyhyenas, where you can get these episodes a day early, ad-free. You get our weekly bonus episodes where we really go wild. You can join at the $5 or $10 level. The $10 level gives you the video, and there's a $25 level for our rich people who want to support, and they get an additional episode only for them once a month. We love you guys.
Love you, baby. And you will be able to hear our next episode. Continue on with us right now at patreon.com/historyhyenas. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, and we got some new topics.